Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Office Hours Tuesday Focus. This one's date tag 260303. Tonight, we are doing an Ecamm deep dive. Ecamm, of course, is the popular software swisher that so many people are using, including this very show you're watching right now. That's right. We have a variety of platforms. Tonight, we are on Ecamm, and we do our best to keep aware of kind of all the platforms. Ecamm is feeding our global YouTube and Zooms right now. And to help us more dive deeply into the Ecamm system, we've assembled an amazing panel of super users, including virtual event producer Daniel Chi, founder of Take One Tech and Digital Stage Academy Kirk Nugent, Alec Johnson, who's coming to us all the way from Thailand. And last but certainly not least, I get to welcome back Director of Strategic Partnerships at Ecamm Network, Doc Rock. So we are going to be having all sorts of fun today, talking through everything Ecamm. Also with us, our Office Hours host and frequent panelist, CJ Covell, plus our question reader tonight, Cindy Drozda. That's what's going to be happening now. I'm going to be coming back in just a second to Doc Rock to start the discussion off, but I wanted to quickly mention we are a Q&A show, which means that we're interested in what you, our current viewers, want to know. So if you'd like to get your questions into the show, our question submission interface is really simple to get to. Just go to askofficehours.global. That's askofficehours.global. Put that in any web browser and it'll take you right into the question submission system. And you can get your questions for any or all of the panelists directly into the show. All right, the lightning round. We're going to go around the panel and talk to everybody just very briefly to get to know who's in the panel tonight. Doc Rock, I'm coming to you first, since outside of CJ, I'm most familiar with you. You've been on the show before. So I'm going to let you do a really, really quick intro to Ecamm for any viewers who might be showing up for this show and have no idea what this software is all about. What do you think?
Basically, we are a desktop video production software that will allow you to do things like record directly to hard drive with all your graphics and overlays and scenes and everything sort of almost put like in a storyboard and go straight down the list, which can really save you a lot of time in editing. We have people that use it for podcasting because you can bring in guests from all over the planet, either using the web sort of interface for the Zoom, the interface for interviews, or using Zoom as a backend, which is incredible because everybody knows how to use Zoom. We also get a lot of people that use us for webinars and education and things like that, because once you are in the Zoom, it allows you to control the screens yourself. So graphics and overlays and, timers, web widgets, all of the above. So the best way to describe it is it's pretty much if you could take a whole bunch of really expensive equipment from back in the day, Grass Valley Switcher, Chiron, Harriet, a whole bunch of like multi-million-dollar machine.
Yeah, I'm betting this is a lot less expensive.
a heck of a lot less expensive, because that's where I started. I started out, like running cables and doing all of the crazy stuff for those things. And yeah, it was wild. When I first started using it myself as a user, I was just blown away by what we were able to do. And then I'm looking at an old room full of crap that we bought. This thing can smoke. Like, it's kind of crazy. So the best way to describe it, yes, is a desktop production software that's really easy to use. And we try to hide as much as of the stuff that's going to cause you to tweak more than put out content, because at the end of the day, it's all about the content that's coming out. So we try to make it very Apple-like. And some people love that, some people don't. But
times they are changing.
Yeah.
Let's meet
I prefer this way because it makes it easier,
Let's next up meet event producer Daniel Chi, the founder, creator of Virtual Event Blueprint and Live Producer Playbook, training programs focused on helping both beginners and experienced hosts produce confident and professional live events. I need this badly, using platforms such as Ecamm and Zoom. Daniel, what attracted you to the Ecamm platform for all your work?
I was looking for different solutions that were easy to use, yet powerful enough to do the things that I wanted to do. Now, at first, I always started off doing my own productions, just pretty much like everybody else. But then kind of navigated, especially during, 2020 and 2021, especially navigated towards producing events for other people. And that's where I was thinking, wow, EcammLive is the application for me to use. I just have to hide myself. And, this was a version that was before Zoom was integrated into it. And I've had the privilege of running behind the scenes live stream productions and multi-Zoom room productions with like 150,000 registrants. And so, it's been a blast. I love EcammLive as the software. And I think one of the big things that people come to EcammLive for is not just that aspect, but it's also the community and the support. And I can't tell you which one is the higher priority. Like, is it the software and getting your stuff done, or is it the community, or is it the support? Like, they're all amazing, and that's one of the things I think that really makes Ecamm different.
Next up, Alec Johnson. I said Alex. It's Alec. I've done that all week long, and I have to break myself of that. Founder of Take One Tech and creator of the Digital Stage Academy, a program designed to help entrepreneurs elevate their online presence. So what's your involvement in this whole mess, Alec?
Well, I've got to say thank you to Doc, because it was Doc that turned me on to Ecamm about 5 years or so ago, and it was when I was trying to create a video course, and I was my own worst enemy really when it came to trying to record and edit, and I wasn't really good at either. But I didn't have any problem speaking publicly on stages in front of hundreds or thousands, so I figured there must be a way to just do this like in one take, the same as I would if I was just standing on a stage. And so that's when I got into looking for live production tools and discovered Ecamm. And then I set up a YouTube channel, Take One Tech, that was really a test bed for me to practice the process of making videos in one take with no edits. Doc also is the one who said, you really need to get 100 videos under your belt before you start making any decisions about, tweaking this or that. And so I did 100 videos in 100 days with Ecamm, and then went on to do more in a year and so on. And everything's just grown from there really. And then I created the EcammLive masterclass to teach other people how to use it. And I've got to just second what Daniel said about the community. It is definitely its best feature. Everybody in there is so supportive, and people who you might think are in some ways in competition with each other, there is no sense of that. Everyone's just so open, welcoming, and willing to share and uplift everybody. So it's just a phenomenal place to be. And everything I do now has just grown out of that. And next couple of weeks, we've got the Digital Stage Summit, which is using the same simple live production techniques as you would use in a one-man video to basically bring in 40 speakers from around the world for 3 days for 12 hours a day of live stream summit goodness. It's going to be amazing, and it's all thanks to Ecamm.
Nice. And finally, we're joined by guest Kirk Nugent, is an online video coach, content creator, speaker, digital church consultant, and media pastor. Welcome, Kirk. What was it that drew you into the Ecamm system?
Yeah, well, you said media pastor at the last piece of that intro, and yeah, so I was using these platforms to stream my church service, and came across Ecamm. I was using a different platform at the time. I couldn't believe some of the functions and features. I saw a good friend of mine, Leslie Samuel, test it out live, and we were all in the chat just kind of going nuts with him as he was doing different things and features, and kind of kicking the tires. And so, yeah, I dived into it. I always like to tell people that Ecamm works the way my brain works. And so it just felt natural to me. It just came naturally to me. I was like, well, if I wanted to do this, that should be over there. And when I moved my mouse over there, it was there. So I've since used it. My church has a couple thousand people watching live every Saturday. So that's been an amazing piece to add to the worship experience. We do something slightly different than most churches do, where we have this talk back, almost like a ESPN style pre-show and post-show for our worship experience, and our audience absolutely loves that, and Ecamm makes that possible. So that's been really cool. Again, if you're like me and you're allergic to video editing, Ecamm also really just kind of makes that really simple, makes it really possible for you to be able to have really high professional looking videos, as Alex said, in one take. So that's all of those pieces kind of drew me into it. It feels like home. And I want to just echo what others have said as well. The community is amazing.
So that's our panel, and a stellar panel it is for tonight. Also waiting patiently in the panel is CJ Covell, someone very familiar to Office Hours audience as a host and panelist. CJ, do you have anything that's kind of popped up to the top of your mind? I know you use Ecamm as well, so what are you thinking about?
Yeah, it's interesting. I started only a few months ago to get into EcammLive, and I actually did one of the 2-day events like the Leap into Video to just kind of get a vibe with the Ecamm fam and see everybody. And it was really awesome to see that community and get to participate in that. And I took away a lot of things that actually I used one today. I was trying to do a talk with some high school kids about, about business and about presenting themselves and in the digital world, how's all that changing? And I found myself using one of those exercises, and I was like, man, I didn't think I was walking away with something. But anyway, for me, I've been a Mac user since forever. I mean, I was an Ecamm eyeglasses user like way back, like when it originally came out, and I was like, okay, this is cool. Like I think I might have still had the eyesight camera that looked like the barrel.
No.
But for me, with Firewire 400 coming out the bottom and had that like plastic. Anyway, for me, when I downloaded Ecamm and I started playing around with it, I was like, holy smokes, this feels like a Mac app. This is something that I don't need to, that I can introduce to other people within my business to help support. Like we do company town halls and we run those off of Ecamm. But the thing that drew me to the software was that I can introduce the software to a civilian, right? A muggle, whatever you want to call them, but somebody who's not a production person, and then have them be able to get it. And then here's your hotkeys, here's your Stream Deck, and then they just go through the process. And before, I didn't have a tool that was approachable enough that I could take someone who's just, and like I said, a civilian, a normal person who's not a production crazy like like I think I am. And so that for me was what drew it to me, and it's only got better and better. I also owe a big debt of thanks to David Paskin for spending half an hour with me and giving me a walkthrough of stuff, because it's unlocked whole new stuff. I got so spoiled with having, in this space that I built for office hours, a switcher. So if I wanted to go to, like, I'm going to show you my computer and then I'm going to jump back real quick, like that was seamless. But whenever I wasn't in this room, all of a sudden I didn't have all those tools. Now I do. And and the fact that I can just join a Zoom meeting from Ecamm and it's just easy and normal, it's like, I feel like I have superpowers.
So I'm going to assume that everybody on here, their work is a little tiny bit different. So I'm going to go around and ask everybody on the panel, just as kind of an icebreaker question, what software feature is kind of top of your mind these days? I'm assuming that you all might be a little bit different, but what's something either in the latest versions of the software or something that's been there for the whole time that you think people coming into Ecamm might not be fully aware of, but that you think makes an entire difference here? So I started with Doc originally, so I'm going to start with you, Doc. And I know this isn't one of your name your best, your favorite child things. I know there's a lot in the software that you undoubtedly love, but is there something top of mind that kind of sticks out for you?
There's a hidden Easter egg button in my version that I press when something gets stuck, and then I call Daniel. but actually,
The phone a friend feature. Oh, I love that.
yeah. I was like, Daniel, have you ever seen this before? And he goes, yeah, no, you're doing something wild. I go, yeah, always. No, honestly, for me, I think the best part has been the ISO recordings, something that I use all the time, whether I'm doing a production myself or, creating videos for, somebody sends me something I need to make a video of, and I can work my top camera and my face camera, any side cameras all at one time. But I don't have to really worry about switching. Just record it all in one shot, and then once I open it up in either Final Cut or DaVinci, I can do the cuts later, and everything is perfectly timed out. So ISO recording for me is it 100%.
Daniel, what's top of mind for you?
I think the biggest thing for me is when Ecamm integrated Zoom into the software. Because before Ecamm was built, or before Ecamm for Zoom, I had to use $2,000 computer systems for each what we call drone. So every guest that I would bring on as a speaker, I would have one computer system on for them, and then I would bring in their video, and then that video would go through a video switcher, and then their audio would be routed through a mixer, and I would have mix minus, and if I had 5 speakers, I would need 5 drones. That's $10,000 of computers. And then came along Zoom, built into Ecamm, and now you can do it on the same computer system. And you don't need all of those drones. And I think for me, that really revolutionized the way that I run my remote production business. And it's also enabled the average Joe or Jane to be able to say, hey, I can do this too now without having to break the bank. So that was, to me, that was the #1 feature that just really made it awesome.
Yeah, nobody said the word pin farms to me in a while. I wonder why that is, huh? Alex Johnson.
Well, to second what Daniel said, I mean, it's an amazing feature to be able to just pull out the people, but there's a new feature in the beta, and yes, it's beta, and that is this dual aspect ratio that we can now do. And as somebody who also has this allergy to editing, as does Kirk, I've always had this thing that I should be repurposing my long form content, but it always would involve taking it into some form of editor. And especially when you're doing tutorials and things like that I tend to be doing, it's not the easiest to kind of, chop things up and get them to work in a vertical format as well as a horizontal. Whereas with this new feature, for every scene that you've got in horizontal, there's also a corresponding scene that is specifically set up for vertical. So it means now that I'm just always going to be recording in this format, because it means that I'll always then have a vertical version of whatever it is I'm doing that I can go back and just basically clip stuff out. And so the repurposing then just becomes a simple clipping exercise rather than me fearing I've got to, fire up some editor and get into the weeds with all of that. So that for me is going to be a game changer and actually help me get more out of my long form content.
I'm going to give you a pass on the beta because you're from London, and I'm just going to ask for the U in color back again, please. Let's go on to Kirk.
Man, everybody has really covered a lot of the features. I was like, check, yeah, oh yeah, that one too. I really love scenes and the workflow. So scenes are a collections of overlays, and just the way that you can kind of design your scenes and set up a workflow that allows you to come up with an end product that is ready to post, ready to publish. So that was a major takeaway for me. As Alec said, we both share this allergy to video editing. So being able to hit the finish button and allow and that allows me now to just publish that video is really great. And then of course the whole concept of being able to record directly to the hard drive, that's not necessarily a feature, but that's a big plus for me. Like, it's not recording to the SD card. I don't have to dump it from my phone, my camera, to the hard drive on my computer and then drop it on a timeline. It's already ready to go. One of the things I always do whenever somebody comes over to the home studio is I have them sit in the chair, hit the Stream Deck button, either with their finger on the desk or with their foot on the pedal on the floor, and I just have them record something. And when they're done, I immediately airdrop it to their phone and I challenge them to post it. And they look at me and they're like, man, that was just way too easy. I could do that over and over and over again. And that's exactly why I love that about the platform.
Very nice. CJ, you had something.
Placeholder cameras, hands down, because once I get my people added into Zoom, I can assign them to different placeholders, and then all of a sudden all my scenes are just already built. So if I thought it was just camera A, B, C, D, E. And then I was talking to Florence Donald one night on the phone while I was waiting for a delivery of something, and she's like, you can have way more than A, B, C, D, E. You can have as many as you want. And then all of a sudden my mind just was blown, because not only can I have different scenes set up with the right people in the right boxes, but I can have the same camera at a different zoom level. So if I add one camera to two different sources, then depending on how the framing is, I can make it perfect. And really, I mean, that sort of flexibility was something that I was like, oh man, I can take this to a whole different level.
So I've been talking about the fact this is a Q&A show. Let me toss up a QR code for you. If you would like to get your questions in for our amazing panel, if there's anything in the universe you want to know about how Ecamm functions, what it's good for, little tricks or tips or whatever, this is the place to be tonight. There is no more glowing a brain trust than one we got right now. So you can shoot that, or you can simply type into your computer, as I mentioned earlier in the show, askofficehours.global. That'll take you into the Q&A system. We've already got a good little group of voting questions up for this. I will tell you that if you're in the regular office hours Mukana, and some of you probably are watching us for the first time and don't know about that, our daily show has been going on for now 2,000 plus episodes. We've been here every single day, 7 days a week since the pandemic started. And one of the things we do is we form this lovely community at justofficehours.global. And one of the processes is, with all of our guests and all of the topics we cover, if you're part of the Office Hours family, essentially, you can vote on the questions that come in every day. And the questions with the most votes typically are prioritized, so that if you if we have a huge group of questions, we just start at the top with the most votes and descend from there. So if you'd like to get your question in, there's the QR code. I'm going to pop that back out. And I think, Cindy, we are ready to dive into our first set of questions. So this is Cindy Drozde, here in Colorado, who's our question reader today. Cindy, what do we got?
Our first question today is from Florence Donald in Silver Spring, Maryland. Where does Ecamm fit in the professional media and video production industry relative to other high-end switchers, hardware and software? Describe high-end professional productions you've used Ecamm to deliver.
I'm going to start with Alex Johnson. Alec Johnson. I keep doing that. I'm going to fix that before, right at the end of here in my close. Alec.
Don't worry, Siri still calls me Alex as well. So this is something that's really sort of top of mind for me right at the moment, because I am planning the Digital Stage Summit again, which, as I say, is happening in a couple of weeks. But we ran it last year, and it was done entirely with Ecamm. Now, I'm somebody who doesn't come from a professional events background as such, so I can't speak to what it's like in terms of other high-end switches or anything like that. But what I can tell you is that the system that I set up last year, and will be repeating it again this year, with basically 3 computers that were running the thing, and I had the speakers coming in on one Zoom. I had a backstage area with commentators. So the way that I ran the summit was we had sort of sessions starting on the hour, half an hour for the speaker, 15 minutes of Q&A with me and the speaker, sort of fielding questions from the audience. And then I had a 15-minute commentary slot where we just had 2 commentators on screen, basically discussing the takeaways from the previous session. And actually, that was a practical thing to give me time to, in the backstage, be getting the next speaker up and running. And this was 11 hours a day. This year, it's 12 hours a day for 3 days. But it was all just run by me from my my little studio here, and running across different computers. Now, I've actually also used it for doing sort of one-man live events as well. And I've got another studio which is set up for this purpose, which is more of a standing studio. And this one is specifically designed to be controlled all with Stream Deck, just from a practical point of view that I'm standing up. So I've got a series of Stream Deck pedals. We've got some pedals over on the floor. I've got screens on either side as well, so I can show stuff that's going on over on those 2 screens as part of the presentation. And just sort of out of shot there are these 7 Stream Deck pedals down on the floor that I'm controlling it all by as well. And incidentally, one of the things that somebody mentioned earlier, CJ mentioned about one of their favorite features was the placeholder cameras. One of the great things about the placeholder camera feature is it can actually be tied to your preset positions of your PTZ cameras. So that camera in that studio is an Osbot Tail 2, and so those different scenes are then tied to the specific preset position of the camera. And when you press the Stream Deck button to switch to that scene, it's automatically moving the camera. So it's really, I'm going to say there's not really a huge limit on what you can do with it. It's amazingly powerful, and multi-day events with multiple speakers is absolutely within reach. It's just a series of simple steps, beyond just screen sharing and doing tech tutorials, which is where I started.
Giving a whole new meaning to the thought one-man band in the tech age. Doc Rock.
Exactly.
Get in on this.
Okay, so it's funny because oftentimes this question comes up, and it comes up from someone who's going to probably do a live stream to YouTube with a couple of cameras. But we have broadcast TV shows that use Ecamm because of the simplicity, especially when it comes to integrating guests. Now, I'm going to say something that's a little controversial. I hope none of them ever hear this, but we have a show that I work with, and it's called Foul Territory. Now, this show is basically a group of Major League Baseball players. And let's just say Major League Baseball players, well, all cool, except for the Yankee dudes up there, they don't know how to use tech. But they're simulcasting into like 3 different networks, FanDuel network, some Amazon Prime stuff. They run about 17 or 18 different shows coming out of the network. And other than John Papelbon, who's Red Sox, they're not the, again, I won't say that. They might hit me with a bat. Anyway, if they can do it and run a broadcast TV show, it shows not only the simplicity of it is, but there is a robustness that can allow you to do that. And they're not our only broadcast show. We have a couple that we are bound by secrecy not to tell. And I kind of hate the fact that I can, because if I could tell you that, it ends this question in one fell swoop. But there is something national TV show that you see all the time that's completely run on Ecamm. And one of these days, I'm going to just get drunk and let it slip.
Well, I don't know what I wonder.
No, I
Please
wouldn't
hear
do that.
or not hear. I don't know if we get in trouble. CJ, you wanted to
Quick
dive in on
follow up
this.
to Alec's comment. So
Sure.
when you put a camera with a preset and the PTZ preset is tied to the placeholder, does the change happen when that camera's in preview if you're in studio mode?
If you preview the camera, but obviously if you've got a live scene that's got the other one, then it wouldn't. I don't think it would. I don't think it would switch. No, because obviously if you've got a live camera, so it's only just when you go live, it's going to then turn to that position. Because essentially you've got placeholder cameras. Let's say it's camera A and B, and it's using the same PTZ camera, but one is set to preset 1 and one is set to preset 2. Oh, and another thing on that, by the way, the Osbot has got 3 presets that it can have kind of natively. But Ecamm allows you to actually program 10 presets. So you've even just got more presets within there as well.
PTZs and I put one PTZ into preview and then it whipped over to the person that's not speaking while it was in preview and then what's in program. Then so the camera move never happens on air, but I look like I have a heck of a lot more operators than I really do.
Right.
The secret move to that would actually be to do it as multiple scenes and not use preview because preview is good. However, preview eats up a lot of resources because you're basically running the same scene twice. And most people can't wrap their head around that, but preview uses up a heck of a lot of resources. So it's actually better to have a scene. We used to do the fake transitions where you would put the wipe and then there's a scene and then another wipe and it just runs 3 in a row, and it gives the effect of having a sort of a genlock transition or whatever. It's better to actually do those moves behind a different scene as opposed to do it with preview mode. No, if you have a ultra or max and you're fully loaded, who cares? But we always have the people. I want to run this whole thing on a M1 MacBook Air, and I want to do 7 guests, and no. So, no.
Cool, thank you.
There are limitations to Scott, what you're telling us.
Yeah.
Daniel was nodding through a lot of that, so I want to give him a moment here. Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, CJ, that's a really good question, and Doc is 100% right on that. But if you are doing 2 PTZs, you can have what's called unlimited views just by using 2 different cameras and using preview mode. However, you don't want to always use preview mode unless you have a beefier computer system, because we have to understand that the preview and the production are 2 different streams, right? 2 different encoders. So 100% on both ends. And actually, that's one of the things when I do in-person or live events from stage, I'll actually use a combination of 2 and even 3 different PTZ cameras. Usually the Osbot is what I use. And you can set all of those different unlimited scenes up. So that's pretty cool. I also want to answer Florence's question. It's like, I guess it's difficult to say. I don't really like to say, oh, Ecamm is the best and it's beyond, $100,000 equipment. It's not. It's not meant necessarily for that. Can it do that? 100% it can. But, every different software or hardware piece has its own place in the industry and within the market. So, could you do the Olympics off of this? You could probably do it, but I'd probably settle with the $1 million piece of hardware gear and the truck, and that takes up a whole parking spot, in the back lot. But having said that, though, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't run your own business running EcammLive. I know some of my clients are big podcasters. They have 2-3 million followers on social media. There's a couple of people that are multi-million-dollar earners on YouTube. They create all their content on Ecamm. I know smaller productions where they've shaved off 3-4 hour production cycles for a 30-minute podcast episode, and it's in 60 minutes and it's done, kind of a thing. And then even for myself, with the productions that I've done, one of my clients trusts me and only trusts me to run his January challenge. And as I said, 150,000 registrants to that challenge. And he spent over $2.5 million on that program. And he uses my services because I am well adept at using EcammLive and figuring out the troubleshooting side of things. So that's, I rely on EcammLive, and it really, honestly, it's been very, very good. It's been very good.
This whole discussion has reminded me, I think CJ checked earlier the fact that he mentioned Apple's approach to software design. One of the things they've always talked about is we're going to make this as simple feeling as possible, but in behind the scenes, we're not going to make it dumbed down at all. And I'm getting the same vibe out of this, that it may be approachable. You may be able to get into it with basic concepts and things like that. But the amount of distance you can travel appears to be virtually unlimited. We're hearing about huge programs with huge audiences. And this software scales up to be able to successfully do that. No small task in the software design field. So kudos for that. Let's go to our next question.
The next one is from me. And I'm interested in knowing what specs does the computer need to have to run Ecamm to switch and stream a show with 6 4K cameras?
Doc's going to start us off, then Daniel and Alec. Doc?
Okay. The first thing is, it's strange to say this, getting the 6 4K cameras into the computer will probably be the most difficult part and not the most worrisome about your computer. But the way I would put it right now, if you take any current model Mac, and that I would say probably going from the M2 forward, we have lots of people that are using M1s, but at this point the M1's getting a little long in the tooth. So basically anything from M2 forward, 16 gigs or better, and as much hard drive space as the wallet will allow you to have, makes it better, because the internal drive does a lot, when the memory starts to run out of time and it needs to work. So do we run whole entire incredible streams with 4 4K cameras on a baseline M1 Mac? Absolutely. Would I do it every day? Probably not. So to get that many cameras in and get them in nicely, I would go with something like a pair of deck links, or a big deck link. One of the bigger deck links can get you 8 cameras in, but that's the best way to get it in, because I saw somebody in the chat was like, oh, I want to use 4 USB cameras. And I'm like, that works. But the reason why it's hit or miss is the USB bus is, no matter how much you spread it across the bus, is not designed to always try to catch all of those. And I used to do like 7 cam links. It was really stupid. It worked when it worked and it didn't when it didn't. Once I switched to the deck link, I have 4K cameras at any one given time on this machine, and they just work. They never cry. They wake up. They do their thing. So a deck link is going to do all that work. Is outside the computer, and I would say M2 Pro 16 gigs or better, and everything above that, including brand new M5s, will work. The only thing I would tell you to stay away from at all costs, and not even the one that came out this morning, do not MacBook Air it.
Daniel.
100% do not air it. Please do not even ask about that thing. I agree. 4K video is very taxing on any computer system. It doesn't matter if you have, let's just talk about PCs, right? It doesn't matter if you've got the 5090 titanium $7,000 GPU. It's going to have a very difficult time, rendering 4K video like that. But what I do is, aside from the option of using a deck link, which is basically a PCIe card that goes into an external Thunderbolt box that gets connected by Thunderbolt into your Mac, in addition to that, you can actually use NDI. So, for example, I have different cameras in this office that are all running over NDI, and they're 4K signals. So you can bring literally an unlimited amount of those into your EcammLive production. Now, the question is, are you recording? A lot of people want to record ISO. Well, you cannot record multiple 4K ISO feeds in addition to your main program feed being recorded on even the most powerful Mac. It doesn't matter if you've got the $10,000 brand new M5 MacBook Pro Max with 1.5 billion GPU cores and CPU cores. It's just not going to process that many 4K videos. But so the maximum I brought in, I've got 1, 2, 3 Osbots Tail 2s running at 4K 60. I've got 2 Zoe boxes running at 4K 30. And so that's what, 3, 4, 5 4K cameras running into my Ecamm. And there's no additional hardware, just NDI.
Kirk Nugent.
Yeah, so one of the things I was looking at for whenever you have somebody that's wanting to plug in all of these things, you also have to think about what your workflow is going to be. What is your reasoning behind doing that? Are you going to stream at 4K? So, answering some of the questions that everybody else has in terms of what can Ecamm do? I think they've covered that, but I would just kind of go back to what are you actually trying to achieve by doing 6 4K cameras? I would ask that question to the person. And my assumption is if you're going to do 6 4K cameras, you've got the budget to be able to go pretty high end, to have the specs and the other components that Doc and Daniel have talked about to be able to really achieve that type of stream.
Next question.
This one is from Michael Vosbein. I'm trying to connect multiple USB webcams, Brio 4K and Osbots, to my M4 base model Mac Mini. I have to spread them out across multiple buses until all 4 of them appear, sometimes hit or miss. Will Rode's new powered hub solve this?
No.
Daniel Chi, what do you think?
Sorry, you heard Doc blurt out. No, it's not gonna happen. You're just basically putting too many kids on the bus at the same time. So you do have to spread them out. Rode's little hub that they've created is great. Don't get me wrong, but it's just a 10 gigabit hub. And so when you're connecting multiple USB devices at 4K, you have to rely on 2 things. One is the power delivery to each of those cameras, as well as the bandwidth and the data that's coming through those cameras. And so while I would love to say, let's just, slap as many USB devices onto that single device, unfortunately, it's not going to work out. Just as Doc had mentioned earlier, using different cam links as an example for, multiple cam links. Like you can't even use 2 cam links on the same USB bus, regardless of what resolution you're using on that. And sometimes it works, but most often than not, overloading that bus is going to just not work. So what'll happen is you're in the middle of a production and the camera just freezes or it just goes black. And, I'd hate that to happen to any of your live streams, let alone the frustration that it would cause on your recording. So in this case, you've got a Brio 4K and you've got Osbots. You would really want to, again, separate them to different buses. So for example, your M4 base model has 4 Thunderbolt ports on the back and 2 USB ports on the front. So that's, I can't remember, Doc, with the front ports, if that's 1 bus, I think, and then the 4 on the back are 4 separate buses, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So you've got 5 different buses there. So could you put in 5 different cameras to each of those? Yeah, you could. Do you need to plug in other items? Well, if you do, then you can get a dock or a hub for each one. But please make sure that when you get some sort of a USB dock or a Thunderbolt dock or a hub, please make sure that it is powered, so it has its own power that goes into the device itself, and please make sure it's the fastest as possible. So right now, USB 3.1, 3.2 Gen 2 specs are up to 10 gigabits per second, and that's for every device that's on that USB hub. And also Thunderbolt, you're looking at, generally speaking, Thunderbolt 4 and 5, 40 gigabits per second. And sometimes you can get Thunderbolt 5 is about 80 gigabits per second for kind of like burst speeds. So keep them all separate if you can.
I'm going to go to Doc in just a second, but often on office hours on our show, a lot of additional information is in the show chat. And right now I just saw Michael Vosbein, who asked that question, said he's using multiple 1080 cams for teaching drum sets with a lot of angles. So that's what he's trying to do. And Mickey Makachor in the chat said, use multiple Thunderbolt hubs that contain multiple USB controllers for this. And that might solve the problem. Now we're going to Doc. Doc Rock?
So yeah, the follow-up answer you just gave would have been one of mine. Is I use multiple Thunderbolt hubs, and also remember, if you have your Osbot, man, Daniel, you almost made me say it with a Canadian accent. If you have your Osbots and you have them set up with PTZ, you can pull multiple angles. So you might be able to take just one of those and have it pull multiple angles because you're doing multiple things. The other thing that will help out a lot, and I pulled this off the desk, this is a UVC to NDI adapter. This one happens to be the Osbot version. Now that allows you to bring it in via NDI, and you're not taxing your USB bus. You just need to have a relatively robust network, but that solves that problem as well, because this particular camera is not even connected to anything, but it's connected because I have it Etherneted in, so it's coming in over NDI. So that will help you fight the process of overloading the bus. So there we go.
Next question.
Next up, we have Dave Kaufman in Vancouver, BC, asking, can the TD for the show put Ecamm into live demo mode so we can see it?
The only downside to doing this, and I'd be tempted here, is that we get into demos, and the next thing you know, the 8 or 10 questioners who are waiting for their questions to get up. Can you do something really quick, Alex? That kind of
Absolutely. Yeah, no problem. I can do it in a couple of
open as well.
Couple of minutes. So this is the Ecamm interface. The great thing about it is, as well as the window, and by the way, this is where you can see the horizontal format and also the vertical format side by side. So that's where I was talking about earlier, this beta feature where you're getting both of those in one. You've then got a scenes window over here on the left-hand side. So this is where I can just switch between my different scenes. Obviously, I'm going to be using Stream Deck to do this. So all the streams just get pulled into Stream Deck. But here you can see it's pulling in the different elements on the screen, and over here you've got the overlays window. So this is basically all the things that are present in that scene. So here we've got my cameras. I've got some background things going on there, but essentially it starts as just a blank canvas like this, and then we can add in our background that we want in all scenes. I can just click to add a camera and now just easily drag and drop it. So if you're familiar with hardware switchers, which I know the Rodecaster Video has got a similar sort of interface to be able to easily drag and drop, but I always found personally when I looked at the Ecamm, it was a lot harder to just get things laid out. If I want to change things on the fly, I can easily do that. If I want to add in a screen share, I can just drag and drop that and share some particular part of the screen. This is sharing one of my desktops. I can just hold down the Option key and drag and crop into some particular area of it like this. So if I wanted to share this particular website, now I've got a scene just like that setup that's got me on one side and the screen share over on the other, and now that is sharing a part of my screen, so I can go over to that screen and move it around like that. So that's basically the concept. You've got scenes, overlays. There's also audio and all of these other things built in. We can change the border styling and things like that as well. I mean, obviously you can go on and on with all of this, but that's basically the interface. All of this stuff is completely customizable in terms of what you see on screen, but also what you actually have on there. And we talked earlier about how it can seem a little bit complicated, but you can basically just close down all of the windows that you don't want to see. So it might well be that when you're actually recording, you've basically just got your audio there to just make sure your audio is coming through, but you might well just be purely looking at that one interface. It can be as simple as that.
Well done. I didn't think you were going to make it in time, and you did a fabulous job. Congratulations and thank you.
That's take one tech right there.
Go to our
Had some practice.
Yeah, there's a YouTube video out of that right there. Next question.
Kenny Hampton in Greenville, Illinois is asking, please explain how the guests are getting into EcammLive tonight. Does Zoom play a part to this input?
Daniel Che is going to start us off here.
100%. That's the great part about EcammLive and Ecamm for Zoom is that you're able to bring in up to 10 speakers, let's call that, plus an active speaker into EcammLive. And what happens is you can see everybody in the gallery, and everybody, once you're logged in through your EcammLive into your Zoom meeting or your Zoom webinar or your Zoom event, you'll see a list of these different people that are in that room. And if you're the host, it's quick and easy. Just simply add their video source to EcammLive and then assign them a placeholder. And we were talking about placeholders in the scenes before, but once you've done that, all of a sudden their audio and their video is readily available inside any of your scenes. And so every single one of us here has joined the same Zoom meeting. So on my screen below my camera, I can see the Brady Bunch gallery of everybody. And then above that is basically my camera. So if you're part of like if you're on the screen itself, you would have a scene with your video, and then if you have guests, you can add them either by themselves or side by side, like you've seen in this production. But yeah, that's pretty much how you would do it. And then there's also a scene that David has that has multiple people on it. So with Ecamm for Zoom, you could bring up to 10 people or 10 active speakers in this type of a view. Plus, there's something called an active speaker mode. So let's just say that you've got 10 speakers, but you've got one one placeholder that's for everybody else that's not added as a video source. Well, if you just add this active placeholder, then anybody who literally talked, like you can have 1,000 people in the same Zoom room. If anybody talks, it takes over this one position placeholder on EcammLive. So that's pretty much how we're doing this, and I would say it's fast and easy to bring people in.
Alec Johnson.
Yeah, Daniel's explained that perfectly. I'll just build on what he mentioned there about the active speaker. This is something that I use all the time because I run a lot of training workshops. And if you've ever attended some virtual workshop on Zoom before, and then they say a recording is going to be available afterwards, and it's just the Zoom recording, this makes it look so much more professional when you've got a full-on production of the live training. But what's really good about that active speaker is I have a scene set up in my Ecamm, which is me on one side and the active speaker on the other side. And so when we get to the Q&A section, and people raise their hands and ask a question, it just really adds to the production value when I don't have to do anything on my side except switch to the active speaker scene, and then that person asking a question is there in the scene with me and therefore in the recording. So it means that whenever I'm providing the replays of training after the fact, we've got this really nice polished thing with all of the question askers in the production as well, as I say, without me having to plan ahead or assign them to camera placeholders or anything like that. So that alone, that particular feature is really, really helpful.
I see Doc Rock is up next, but I also see his screen, and he's got a lot of stuff going on. So, Doc, take it away.
The main thing I was just going to show is that while you're doing this, like this is our Zoom panel, and these are our panelists, of course, some of the, the things that help run it, like the meters. But in reality, the simplicity of adding someone to the screen, now I won't do this because I don't want to break anything, but literally I just press add. So if I wanted to add Bill Davis to my screen, I would just take this red icon, press add, and he would basically show up as a camera. And then all I need to do is just drag it into the scene. And the analogous of that is if I were to grab my second camera and put it there, then I could size it around. And so a lot of times I have been doing a thing and a bunch of people raise their hand, and I can just drag people on the screen like I'm Nipsey Russell running the Hollywood Squares. And if you're old enough to catch that, you're old.
I love that. Kirk Nugent raised his hand, wants to get in on this.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I didn't hear anybody mention the comments feature. Zoom comments come into Ecamm as well. And I'm going to tell you that is it just makes it a full event when you're producing something inside Zoom and have the ability to bring up comments and your active speaker at the same time. I do a lot of coaching, especially group coaching. And so for all my group coaching folks out there and you're using Zoom, Ecamm is like the partner product that you didn't know you needed. Get it yesterday, because you at the end of the coaching session, you have a one-on-one. I had a scenario last week where one of my guys in my group had said some really nice things about me, but just so happens that he was an active speaker. So the two of us are on screen at that time. So I have this really cool recording of his testimonial with a comment on screen. And it was just amazing to be able to have that saved and recorded. And my team can take that, chop it up, and make it into some more testimonial content. If you're in this space and you're really trying to capture things on the fly, you don't know spontaneously what's going to happen or what people are going to say, being able to utilize it in your workflow for whatever you're doing inside Zoom for meetings or whatever else, it can be absolutely clutch. And again, like I mentioned, that the ability to bring up that comment and have that deeper engagement, or even just have that in a vertical mode where you can take that, repurpose it for something else later, it's clutch, y'all. So wanted to make sure that feature was mentioned.
I mentioned that we might go over a little bit. We've got enough questions. I think we've locked questions now. So if you're in the queue, I'm going to do my absolute best to get there. But a lot of people want to weigh in this stuff. Daniel wants to get back in on this one. Daniel?
I just wanted to add one thing, was that if everybody here has used Zoom and you've created content or recorded a meeting, whatever that is, and you've looked at the Zoom recording itself, let's just use the term, it's okay. Now, with some of the new Zoom features that will be increasing in quality, but until then, with EcammLive, what's really great about this whole thing is, let's say, for example, that we are doing a live training course, right? And so I've got a live training course that's happening, and I'm doing it over Zoom. I can see all of my attendees and students and clients on the Zoom meeting, and I'm showing slides and all that stuff. Now, I have the option of taking that Zoom cloud recording and chopping that up and then putting that into my my CRM where I'm hosting all my videos and my courses. Or better yet, you can actually use EcammLive's recording, because everything that you're outputting through your camera is going to be recorded inside of EcammLive, and it's high quality. So you can have 1080p video, which most people are using in their productions, or if you really wanted to and you've got a computer system that can handle it, you can record 4K video and save that to your drive, and then use that high quality video for your course, your online courses and videos. So that is one of the great things about EcammLive versus just recording yourself over Zoom.
Let's go to our next question.
Here's Guy Cochran coming in from Seattle, USA. What are some of your Ecamm Stream Deck buttons that you use most?
Ooh, Stream Deck integration. Alec, dive in.
Yeah, I mean, the Stream Deck is just the Ecamm plugin, I should say, for Stream Deck is, I think, one of the most comprehensive. Like, if you look at all of the other plugins for Stream Deck, like by far the list of Ecamm actions is just seems endless compared to the others on the screen. And then when you add in the Ecamm for Zoom separate Stream Deck plugin as well, we've now got full control over Zoom. And really, the power is that there's pretty much nothing in Ecamm that you can do that you can't just program with Stream Deck. So there are just simple scene switches. So I can just show you what my Stream Deck looks like. These are basically all of my different scenes. So these are different camera angles. These are all different screen share scenes. Then we've got things for controlling my sort of Keynote. So I bring Keynote live video into Ecamm to run things like that as well. And then we've got these others that are for different overlays and different camera angles and so on. But really, one of the great ones, though, is specifically about posting comments. We talked about when you are live streaming, or specifically if you're in a Zoom workshop or whatever, and you want to have a a comment that gets posted, you can actually pre-program those comments in advance in Stream Deck, and then when you press the button, it just posts it. So I'm always coming back down to this thing that we talked about at the beginning, the whole kind of one-man band basically, and running a virtual event, and to be able to have just a bank of buttons with all of the different links I'm going to post for different presenters or for my own links or things like that. It just means that they can be all there on tap, and then when I press the button, it's going to trigger them. But there's a really good function that you can also use, which is the multi-action function on Stream Deck. So I have a load of different sort of calls to action that I might want to pop up on screen. So for example, like a little animation to book a consultation, for example. So I can have a multi-action that basically pops up this animation on screen at the same time as it's actually posting that link into the chat as well. So I use that all the time on my live streams and in my virtual events as well. It's a nice little feature.
Kirk Nugent.
Listen, if I knew I was going to go after Alec, I would have probably put my hand down, because he's literally recorded the class on Stream Deck. But yeah, no, some of the ones that I absolutely love is being able to just kind of take people around the room with the different cameras, just tapping on the different cameras that I have in the space, being able to do that very quickly. Another one, of course, is being able to go from scene to scene. And some people don't know this, but I like to put my slide decks in as PDFs into different scenes, and you can control your slide decks with this Stream Deck as well. And if you really want to get wild, you can put it down there on your foot. So there's a lot of different options for that. And I also love the ability to do live demo mode as well. I mean, when you're teaching and being able to just kind of bring up what you're seeing to all those who are watching, to be able to showcase what the platform is and what it's doing, that is clutch. I don't know who came up with that part, but yeah, and having a button on the Stream Deck to be able to do that, turn it on and off, it really just comes in handy.
Kirk, you keep mentioning your feet, and I keep thinking somebody's going to rewire an old organ where the foot pedals and have 10 different buttons down there. Doc Rock, you want to dive in on this?
I have one that's kind of silly, but I use it a lot more than I thought I would. I have a button on my Stream Deck which basically activates the Command-Shift-G command, which is to take a photo. And the reason why you want to do that is because you need to build thumbnails all the time. And so what I did was I created a Stream Deck multi-action that plays a sound file to let me know to get ready. It's like, I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille. And then it will take a photo and it'll play a shutter click, and it'll pause for 3 seconds, take a photo, and it does that 10 times. So I got a couple different YouTube faces because, as a YouTuber, you have to make YouTube faces in your thumbnails, and it just takes all the photos for me so that I am ready to go. And that can go a long way into just saving you time when you're trying to get thumbnail photos, because you could literally just pull them out. Or sometimes someone, has a really good question and I want to be able to follow up on that with an additional video or additional short. I can just take a photo, a single frame photo real quick, so I can remember to make a video about whatever that question was later.
CJ.
Good.
It's not a button so much as a way of getting at the buttons. One thing that I started doing after Stream Deck allowed for virtual Stream Deck interfaces is now I have an iPad sidecarred to my Mac with the buttons that I need to press all the time are on one virtual Stream Deck that has massive buttons. And then all the other controls are on a smaller size button virtual Stream Deck that is much more dense. And so if I have an iPad Pro in front of me with sidecar or duet display, now I have an infinitely customizable touch surface that can access all my scenes and all the things that Ecamm and Ecamm for Zoom plugins can do. But again, if I'm on the go and I don't have, space in the bag for all that extra hardware, now all of a sudden I can go and achieve that same, new level of agility and being nimble while I'm on the road. So the virtual Stream Deck buttons is a total game changer. Hat tip to Florence for that one too.
Daniel Chi.
I've got two of my favorite buttons aside from what everybody else just shared. The one is the zoom button. It's a zoom button, and it helps you to mute.
Wait, we can't hear you.
Said,
oh,
you
it
can't
works.
hear me because I was muted. It was that easy. Because you ever been in a Zoom call and you're moving your mouse over and you're waiting for the hover to happen and you're like, where's the mute button? Where's the mute? I have to cough. Well, that's your cough button, right? And it's seamless. There's that one, and then another one that I use a lot of the times is when I'm doing training with a lot of people inside of the gallery room. I'll actually use the spotlight feature for the button. And just boom, spotlight, and then everybody sees me. And then, when I want other people to speak and I'm not necessarily bringing them in, I will just unspotlight myself and let the active speaker be seen in the Zoom room. So yeah, I use it for a lot of teaching and training.
All right, I'm about to go to the next question. We still have a ton of questions, even though we held it off, though. So I'm going to keep the pace up a little bit, call on fewer people, but we're going to get to everyone if we possibly can. Next question.
This one is from Paul Kovacs in Elkhart, Indiana. When making comment placeholders, the size and placement moves when bringing in a comment to a completely different place. The borders and avatar will match the settings, but not the place and size if I change it.
Daniel Chi, can you do this in a minute or two?
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of the things you have to be careful about when you are adding your comment placeholders is when you are adding an overlay, you can add when you see their comments inside this window here, you can click obviously on the avatar of the person and then it will show on the screen, or you could add a comment placeholder. So where is that? Overlays, and then add a comment placeholder overlay. So this comment placeholder overlay, it's like I'm new to this. When you add a comment placeholder overlay, what you want to do is you don't necessarily want to put this into this all scenes and lock the scene. This might be what's happening here, where when you have your comment here and it's hidden and you lock it, that sometimes can bring in another layer when you're clicking on a comment. So that's one common issue or mistake that I've seen people do when they're adding comments. The other one is by dragging comments over from the comments and reactions window. If you drag a comment over, it's going to add yet another overlay and it will copy the same format. So you just want to be very careful when you're doing that. Now, having said that, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's not a bug. And I want you to understand that we're totally okay if you guys find bugs, because that just helps to improve the software even more. So at any given time when you are running into any issues, a couple of things. One is make sure that you are a member inside of our EcammLive Facebook community. There are tens of thousands of people in there, and all of us that you see here, we're always answering questions that people have, if it's either a challenge or a question on how to do something. So I just want to make sure that that you understand this contact support is your other option. So if there is something that's just not working right, please do go ahead and click on that help top bar menu button there and then contact support, and they will help you through that and determine whether or not it's a bug.
Alec, do you have something for Paul Kovacs?
Yeah, just one other thing that might be a solution for this as well, which is if I put my comment back up on the screen, so I've got a placeholder comment that you can see here. The other thing to note is if you go into the settings for that comment by clicking on the little pencil icon, the default behavior of this is that the text will be dynamic. Now, what that means is that if a big comment comes in, it's going to take up more space than if it is a smaller comment. So actually what I tend to use with those placeholders and those comments is that rather than a dynamic text, you can basically have it where it acts more like a text box. And in that case, the text is going to remain at whatever size you set it. But the two options then is, well, what happens if the text comes in as longer than you've got physical space for in the box? And so there are two options. Either you want to, in that instance, shrink it to fit into the box, or you could have it truncate the text. So with this one, if it was set to truncate, for example, and I made it smaller, obviously it's not going to fit into that box. And then if we change it back to be shrink, it's going to make it basically teeny tiny to fit in there. But as long as you give it enough space, then you'll be fine. And the other thing that I've done is I've got a dedicated scene set up specifically for comments, which basically means that whenever I'm taking comments, I always go over to this scene, and I've specifically left enough space that, you know, this is easily going to fit in whatever length of comment you might well have in there. So that might be another thing to just look at.
Great. Next question.
Brian in Vancouver Island comes to us through the QR code. I run a Zoom meeting once every 2 weeks. What features in Ecamm would be helpful? Is it more than I would need to other than the features already in Zoom?
Kirk and Alex are going to address this. Kirk?
I run a Zoom quite literally every day with several people in there. It's just a matter of how you structured your meeting and what are some of the things that you want to add to that meeting that may be that may just kind of make the meeting flow a little bit better. I like to be able to, as Daniel said earlier, to spotlight myself, bring people into the screen with me inside Ecamm. That's a feature there. You can do that manually by doing the add feature like what Doc Rock showed earlier, or you can do that by just having the active speaker. And so if somebody speaks, they just kind of join you on screen. The one that's spotlighted for everybody. That makes it seamless. If there are questions, you can bring those questions up on screen, have them sitting there, just like kind of what we're doing here for the show tonight, and you can respond to those questions. I just feel like that the functions and features that Ecamm adds to a Zoom meeting makes that Zoom meeting a lot more engaging, a lot more insightful, really allows people to really feel like they are a part of it as well. So almost like you're watching a show, even though you're inside Zoom. So just some of those functions and features, that's what I use regularly. And I think it will absolutely elevate your meeting.
Alex?
Yeah, just building on that as well. It's all about fluidity, really. That's what I always think is it's about you delivering your message and the value that you've got to deliver without unnecessary interruptions. And if you've ever been on a Zoom call, we talked about, you know, clicking around for the mute button. Well, even more disruptive is the one where people are trying to share their screen and they're clicking on the share button, then they're trying to find the right thing to share, realize they've shared the wrong thing. And it basically just disrupts the whole flow of the meeting. Whereas when you can just simply, you know, press a button and go over to your screen share scene or come back to your main scene, I've gone to an incorrect scene there we go, come back to this one, then it just adds to that fluidity. And the same with presentations as well. If you're giving a presentation and it's going to take over the entire screen, as it tends to do with a screen share in Zoom, then you are then not necessarily still the focus of the production. Whereas if you integrate something like keynotes, and I've got my keynote going in to Ecamm with my live video, and so if I'm doing a workshop or whatever, I can use all of the keynotes features for animations. So if we're doing a live training and I want to talk about some bullet points of, you know, what we're going to go through in the training, all of this is basically just keynote. But as you can see, I'm using the live video feature here integrated with Ecamm, and then we can just share all of that into the Zoom with a lot more, as I say, fluidity than doing it in any other way, with all of the camera switching and the screen sharing that you might want to do. So for me, it's all about that. It's about the fluidity of the delivery effectively.
Next question.
Next up is Craig McFarland in Boston, Massachusetts. Coordinating and prepping guests for a quality AV interview can take up a lot of time. What do you do in Ecamm to keep it under control?
Daniel, what do you think?
Well, I think there's a couple things. First, one is when you have a show and you're looking for a high quality, experience for your viewers, your attendees, as well as your participants, you do have to ask them to come in earlier and do a tech check. For example, this is my first time on Office Hours Global, and just yesterday I was with Josh and Florence and we did a tech check. And then again today, about an hour before the show, we did another tech check. And so they were very thorough in terms of how I'm placed in this video, what my volume level is at, my lighting, all of this type of stuff. And that's definitely something that you're going to do. Now, is that Ecamm specific? No, it's not. That's your show. So your processes and your SOPs, your standard operating procedures, you need to include that. Now, having said that, I have done that for most of my productions, but there are situations where you're just going to get people who do not show up for tech checks. And that does happen. And then you're going to have people show up for tech check, but then they are coming in completely different to your show after the tech check. And you're
No,
like,
that never happens.
I don't know what's going. I don't know what you're talking about, right?
No,
this is
don't worry about
blasphemy. So, but what you can do in EcammLive is a couple of different things. One is you could, for example, I had a person and I said, okay, great, here's your laptop. I want you to keep your head in the upper third. I want you to do all this stuff. And literally what they ended up doing was, I'm going to switch to this camera so you can see it. They would do something like this. I would say, okay, yes, have your camera over here. And then when they actually came in, they did this. And it was just, you can't do anything. You can't create something decent from this. However, I did, for example, have somebody who came in like this, and they weren't necessarily centered, and they weren't listening to their comms, right? So what we can do inside of EcammLive is we could take their video source and we can do a digital zoom and pan. Now, you can only do it so much before one is the degradation of the video itself, because you're digitally zooming into their source, and then also you don't want them to be too big. So if one second, why don't let me do this 1 second here. Oh, I've got it locked. Okay, here we go. All right, so what would happen here is I can digitally zoom in. Here, let me pick the right camera. I can digitally zoom in and then pan them using the software. Right. And it depends on how much I want to zoom them in, but I can do my best in order to be able to bring them in side by side, let's say, for example, with the main speaker. Right. And that is one extra thing that you could do. In terms of audio, if they're coming in too hot, you could lower their volume a little bit depending upon what channel they're coming in from. The thing is with Zoom, everybody's coming in as one channel inside of EcammLive. So you can dynamically adjust that Zoom speaker audio level here, which would show up as another audio channel down here. So when you see that, you can go ahead and make that adjustment to everybody on Zoom, especially if that one person is coming in hot. If they're coming in too low, there's nothing you can do about that. You can't boost it in the live production. But those are the things that I generally do to fix challenging guests.
Doc, do you have a minute you can add?
Yeah, I'm going to say something absolutely blasphemous. That's going to sound crazy.
Ooh, good.
Coming from a broadcast world, and everything is measured and everything is metered and everything is, hit the mark tapes, and we got light meters and all that. One of the hardest thing I had to do, and I have to give a hat tip to Alec, because Alec helped me release some of this. Alec has a thing he calls being a recovering perfectionist. I had to take my perfectionist out back, beat the crap out of him, and bury him. And so we have a saying in the Ecamm community called "Life happens." And if you realize the value of the information that you got today would have been the exact same in black and white. All of the stuff that you learned today would have been the exact same at 360p, because none of us are cute at all. So we don't need to be that good, 8K camera. Most of that stuff that we stress out over because we come from this industry is not relevant to the general population. I have a client right now who has a 2.7 million person following, and she still shoots on a G7X from 2011, and everyone says, "Oh, your camera's so nice. What kind of camera is it?" And it's kind of funny because all of my filmmaker friends are swapping out to the latest $5,000-$6,000 camera every couple of months, chasing a dragon that does not exist. And so the reality of it is, how much value can you give your audience without driving yourself crazy trying to make it over technical? And I would tell everybody, please make sure you keep that focus. And the other thing, I just wanted to tell Craig, hey, we are Boston company, so just support the fam. Like we come to our headquarters is in Amesbury, technically not Boston proper, but close enough. You can get there in an hour. Hang out, eat pizza with me.
One of the things when I started with office hours, I had to get used to. I always thought a commercial was 59.5 seconds or 29.5 seconds, and boy, it took me about a year or two before I stopped saying, "Are you sure you want that to go that long?" It's just a different world we're living in now. Next question.
Yeah.
Guy Cochran is back with us. Can you talk about what is coming out in the new release?
Alex Johnson. Alec Johnson. You know, I'm going to keep doing that because when I'm normally in these boxes, Alex Lindsay was our host forever. And whenever my head goes to that, so I apologize again. Alec.
I've just got to say again, the feature that's coming in the out of the beta version at some point is that dual aspect ratio. And I've just got to mention that again because it is going to be a real game changer for me. But the point is, it is coming, but you can also just get it now. So it's not a private beta. You can go to ecamm.com/beta, and it's spelled the same way either way. And you can get your hands on that and try it out. So one thing I will say though is the betas are always really stable, but one thing to be cautious of in this one is if you're using the regular version of Ecamm and you want to try out this feature, the aspect ratio that you have in your Ecamm profiles or in Ecamm is tied to the specific profile that you're in. You can have multiple different use cases of Ecamm all with its own profile. So if you are using the beta, you just want to switch into a profile that's not in dual mode if you're going to switch back to the regular version. Another solution is just always stay in beta. That's pretty much what I'm doing. I will also say another thing about the features though is I think Ecamm, one of the things, and we talked about the community, the developers, the massive development team behind it is basically twins, Ken and Glenn. So they are the ones that are creating all of this. And there's something quite unique here, which is I don't actually think that they particularly use the software anywhere near as much as all of the users do. They are the developers of it, but they're not actually, running events. They're not running massive live streams or creating lots of YouTube content. They are the developers behind it. But that is actually really placed them uniquely to be really responsive to all of the requests that people have got. So there is the Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Ecamm, or Ecamm Beta is the other group. And in there, you can just go and put in whatever feature request you've got. And they are so responsive to all of these things. And all of the features that we've got now have come about because people in the community have said, wouldn't it be great if we could do this? Other people have then gone on and said, yeah, I'll second that and third that and whatever. And it sort of bumped these things up. And so Ecamm has been a development based on all of the community requests. So if you've got anything you want that it doesn't do at the moment, pop it in there and you'll be surprised how quickly maybe it comes to fruition.
Thank you, Alec. Got it right one more time. Kirk Nugent.
No, Alec covered it, but I mean, with that same feature of the dual aspect ratio mode, you also have the ability to record at different quality. You can record at 4K, but stream at 720. So you have that level of granularity and functionality in the coming release of the platform. They've added some other things in there that I think are really cool too. The way that we have normally looked at scenes has always been in that list structure. They've changed that. They've given us the ability to now change it to tiles. And I know for some people that makes just visually it's easier for them. So just a functionality piece there. But I think it was worth mentioning in terms of things that are coming to the platform.
Next question.
Next one is from Paul Kovacs in Elkhart, Indiana. When placing an audio filter on a particular guest in Ecamm, does it go only to the Ecamm recordings or does it go out to all participants to Zoom with the filters?
And if we can keep these to 30 seconds or so, Alec Johnson.
Cool. Yeah, the audio filters is a relatively new feature that was added, and it does allow you to add, things like noise gate and compressor and things like that to different audio channels into your mic and so on. But the thing coming in from Zoom is coming into Ecamm, but it's not being fed back into the people in Zoom. So if you had people coming in from Zoom, the audio was coming directly into Ecamm that way, then no, they're not going to hear that back. They're going to be hearing whatever they're regularly hearing in Zoom.
And CJ Covell.
But it is one of the things that, because we don't, at least for right now, have the ability to address an individual Zoom guest's audio level. All the Zoom guests are coming in as one feed. One of the ways to mitigate folks that have levels that are all over the place is to use that, use the dynamics filters or use compression on the Zoom mix channel. And then when going out to your show, that's going to take some of those peaks and valleys and bring them down. If you can get, if that's, you know, if you have those guests that don't come in for their tech check and then get their audio levels all nice and even. But, you know, pretty please, fingers crossed, individual audio controls. Love you guys.
Next question.
This one's from Justin James in Phoenix, Arizona. Is there a companion module for Ecamm? I see one, but it hasn't been updated in a few years.
Daniel Chi, what do you say?
What's up, Justin? Great question, man, because I think I've had the exact same question for a few years. The answer is somebody's got to develop it. So the SDK is available for EcammLive. So if there's a person who wants to develop that software for Companion, let's do it. Go for it. Contact Ecamm, and they can help you out and send you the information for that. But until then, that old app, don't even try it yet, because it's done. It doesn't work at all.
Last question.
And this last one is from Paul Kovacs in Elkhart, Indiana. I keep getting an alert while using Ecamm that my microphone is not working properly and asks if I want to continue recording. I check my audio and everything is fine. Where in the pipeline might be causing this message to come up frequently?
I get alerts that say your mouth is not working properly, so I'd like this better. Doc, what do you think?
Well, a couple of things is, if you're getting that a lot, just please contact support, because it might be something that we don't see. 9 times out of 10, a lot of times, you know, you'll start your session and you are muted, or your device has, the macOS hasn't really caught the device right for a second, and a couple of seconds later, macOS will pick it up. We don't actually interface with cameras or devices at all. We just read whatever macOS says. So normally it's not us, but I would say definitely send it into support, because I've done things like going to fire up the session and I just got everything muted. And so it's not detecting a signal, and it says that it's not working. And as soon as I unmute it, you know, it's all there and it just works, and there's not really a problem. Now, if you're getting dropouts in your recordings or something like that, that's definitely something else, but definitely hit up support and let us check to see if there's anything. But I just wanted to explain, like, we don't really pay much attention to what devices are loaded or what cameras are loaded. We read whatever macOS says.
Well, I'm going to do a quick promo for what's happening on this show next week, and then I'm going to go around the panel really quick just to get final words and any contact information they want to get out and things like that. Next Tuesday, we're doing a focus with Michael Forrest, the software developer of such great tools as QCam, Presenter, Shoot, and BeatSheet. Also the developer of the Video Pencil app that a lot of people in our community have been using for a long time now. So that's coming up next week. It's wrap-up time. I want to go to everybody who's been so kind to bring their expertise to the panel here. I started with Doc. So, Doc, I'm going to come back to you for 30 seconds of just whatever else you want to say before we say goodbye.
Oh, easy. I wanted to remind you, too, Daniel just brought up the fact that that's coming from Zoom, so more than likely your mic is muted in Zoom. But other than that, yeah, just jump in. Remember, the trial is there, so you can get there and play around. All of our betas are public, which you can also play around with. And just, honestly, you got to try it and play around with it. You will see, like, I came from using something crazy expensive, and I found Ecamm, and then I started messing with it. I was like, no way this is this good for this price. And the rest is history. You're still stuck with me. So, yeah, just do that. Go have fun.
Daniel Chi.
If you're looking for production software, whether it's for recording or live streaming or podcasting, whatever that is, get started with Ecamm. Grab that free trial. Honestly, it is the fastest and easiest software to use that creates a tremendously high quality production. So, and then join us on Facebook.
Alec Johnson.
Yeah, I've just got to echo the same. It's an amazing piece of software. And if you look at the pro version, it's kind of less than $1 a day, I think, if you work it out over, you know, so if you can't add that much value with it, then you're probably not using it right. And if you do want to use it right, I've got a free EcammLive masterclass that's 150 lessons, but there's a quick start guide, absolutely free, and it will tell you everything you need to know about Ecamm. So if you want to get up to speed quick, that's at EcammLiveMasterclass.com.
And last but not least, Kirk. Nugent.
Man, everybody's kind of doing the Ecamm promo thing. I'm going to do the same, but nobody has said hit their affiliate link. So forget everybody else and hit mine, kirknugent.live/Ecamm. If you're going to sign up, hit my link. But it's such a great platform. It is absolutely revolutionized and changed my entire workflow and my business, not just from a coaching perspective, even from a faith-based perspective for the live streaming and just being able to create a more engaging and interactive experience because we are able to have that two-way street with our audience online. It is a tool to be used. What you make of it is what you make of it. I just want to echo everybody else and say, dive in, head first, play with it, kick the tires, break it, build it back up, do it again. You won't, what's the term I'm looking for? You won't regret diving in and taking a bet on yourself with this platform.
And as I mentioned at the start of the show, we're actually using EcammLive to produce this feed, and instrumental to our efforts is our own Office Hours team member, Rabbi David Paskin, a longtime Ecamm user and the host of The Rundown on this show every Thursday evening at 6 p.m. Pacific right here at Office Hours. So a special thanks for all his help in making this happen. Also to the amazing crew in the back end. It takes a small army to put this show on. We've been doing it, as I said, 2,300 times without a miss. We've been on since the beginning of the pandemic. We've never missed a day. And it is a test bed for so many people to learn so much as this entire world of live casting, webcasting, technology change has gone on an amazing tear. We're trying our best to keep up and help you keep up. So thank you for participating. We traditionally close our shows with the Tlaloc traversal. That is how many miles you would have had to travel to reach all the people who ask questions and converse with them and exchange ideas. For tonight's show, that is this is episode 2170 of Office Hours. You would have had to travel 22,000 miles. That is 36,000 kilometers, 175 million bananas for scale. Credits will roll. Thank you, everybody who shows up in it, and we will see you all next week. Thanks for watching.
Great job, everyone.
Yeah, mahalo, Doc. Thank you.
Woohoo! Ooh,
Thank
nice
you.
job, everybody.
That's a lot of bananas.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
They're just everywhere.
We get some shows
You hang
that
around
are
here
that
too
are
much, you end
interesting
up with-
from all over the world, and we have a lot of bananas. That
There
show
would
up.
have been more bananas if we counted our panelists today from
That's
Brio.
true.
Story.